Dracula by Bram Stoker. Read for Mermaids by Gabriel Solstricker. Chapter 26. Dr. Seward's Diary. 29th of October. This is written in the train from Varna to Galat. Last night, we all assembled a little before the time of sunset. Each of us had done his work as well as he could, so far as thought and endeavor and opportunity go. We are prepared for the whole of our journey, and for our work when we get to Galat. When the usual time came round, Mrs. Harker prepared herself for her hypnotic effort. And after a longer and more serious effort on part of Van Helsing than has been usually necessary, she sank into trance. Usually she speaks on a hint, but this time the professor had to ask her questions, and to ask them pretty resolutely before we could learn anything. At last her answer came. I can see nothing. We are still. There are no waves lapping, but a steady swirl of water running against the hawser. I can hear men's voices calling near and far, and the roll and creak of oars in the rowlocks. A gun is fired somewhere. The echo of it seems far away. There is a tramping of feet overhead. I hear ropes and chains are dragged along. What is this? There is a gleam of light. I can feel the air blowing upon me. Here she stopped. She had risen, as if impulsively, from where she lay on the sofa, and raised both her hands, palms upwards, as if lifting a weight. Van Helsing and I looked at each other with understanding. Quincy raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at her intently, while Harker's hand instinctively closed around the hilt of his kukri. There was a long pause. We all knew that the time when she could speak was passing, but we felt it was useless to say anything. Suddenly she sat up and opened her eyes and said sweetly, "Would none of you like a cup of tea? You must all be so tired." We could only make her happy, so acquiesced. She bustled off to get tea, and when she had gone, Van Helsing said, "You see, my friends, he is close at hand. He has left his earth chest. But he has yet to get on the shore. In the night he may lie hidden somewhere, but if he be not carried on shore, or if the ship does not touch it, he cannot achieve the land. In such case he can, if it be by the night, change his form and can jump and fly on shore, as he did at Whitby. But if the day come before he get on shore, then, unless he be carried, he cannot escape. And if he be carried, then the customs men may discover what the box contain. Thus, in time, if he escape not on the shore tonight, or before the dawn, there will be the whole day lost to him. We may, then, arrive in time, for if he escape not at night, we shall come on him in daytime, boxed up and at our mercy, for he dare not be his true self, awake and visible, lest he be discovered." There was no more to be said, so we waited in patience until the dawn, at which time we might learn more from Miss Harker. Early this morning we listened with breathless anxiety for her response in her trance. The hypnotic stage was even longer in coming than before, and when it came, the time remaining until full sunrise was so short that we began to despair. Van Helsing seemed to throw his whole soul into the effort. At last, in obedience to this, she made her reply. "All is dark. I hear lapping water level with me, and some creaking as of wood on wood." She paused, and the red sun shut up. "We must wait till tonight And so it is that we are travelling towards Galatz in an agony of expectation. We are due to arrive between 2 and 3 in the morning, but already at Bucharest we are 3 hours late, so we cannot possibly get in till well after sunup. Thus we shall have 2 more hypnotic messages from Miss Harker. Either or both may possibly throw light on what is happening. Later. Sunset has come and gone. Fortunately, it came at a time when there was no distraction, for it occurred whilst we were at station. We might not have secured the necessary calm. Mrs. Harker yielded to the hypnotic influence even less readily. I am in fear that her power of reading the Count's sensation may die away, just when we need it the most. It seems to me that her imagination is beginning to work. While she has been in the trance, hitherto, she has confined herself to the simplest of facts. If this goes on, it may ultimately mislead us. If I thought the Count's power over her would die away equally with her power of knowledge, it would be a happy thought. But I am afraid that it may not be so. When she did speak, her words were enigmatic. Something is going out. I can feel it pass like a cold wind. I can hear, far off, confused sounds, as of men talking in strange tones, fierce falling water, and the howling of wolves. She stopped, and a shudder ran through her, increasing in intensity for seconds, till at the end she shook as though in a palsy. She said no more, even in answer to the professor's imperative questioning. When she woke from the trance, she was cold and exhausted and languid, but her mind was alert. She could not remember anything and asked what she had said. When she was told, she pondered it deeply for a long time and in silence. 30th of October, 7 a.m. We are near Galatz now, and I may not have time to write later. Sunrise this morning was anxiously looked for us by us all. Knowing of the increasing difficulty of procuring the hypnotic trance, Van Helsing began his passes earlier than usual. It produced no effect, however, until the regular time, when she yielded with still greater difficulty, only a minute before the sun rose. The professor lost no time in his questioning, and her answer came with equal quickness. All is dark. I hear water swirling by, level with my ears, the creaking of wood on wood. Cattle low, far off. There is another sound, a queer one like... She stopped and grew white, and whiter still. Go on. Speak. I command, said Van Helsing in an agonized voice. At the same time, there was despair in his eyes, for the risen sun was reddening even Miss Harker's pale face. She opened her eyes, and we all started as she said, sweetly, with such utmost concern, "Oh, Professor, why ask me to do what you know I can't? I don't remember anything." Then, seeing the look of amazement on our faces, she said, turning from one to the other with a troubled look, "What have I said? What have I done? I know nothing, only that I was lying here half asleep, and heard you say, 'Go on, speak, I command you.' It seems so funny to hear you order me about like a bad child." "Oh, Madam Mina," he said, sadly, "it is proof, if proof be needed, of how I love and honor you when a word for your good, spoken more earnest than ever, can seem so strange because it is to order her who I am proud to obey." The whistles are sounding. We are nearing Galatz. We are on fire with anxiety and eagerness. Mina Harker's Journal, 30th of October. Mr. Morris took me to the hotel, where our rooms had been ordered by telegraph. He being the one who could best be spared, since he does not speak any foreign language. The forces were distributed much as they had been in Varna, except Lord Godalming went to the vice-consul, as his rank might serve an immediate guarantee of some sort to the official. We being in extreme hurry. Jonathan and the two doctors went to the shipping agent to learn the particulars of the arrival of the Tsarina Catherine. Later. Lord Godalming has returned. The consul is away, and the vice-consul sick, so the routine work has been attended by a clerk. He was very obliging, and offered to do anything in his power. Jonathan Harker's Journal, 30th of October. At 9 o'clock, Dr. Van Helsing, Dr. Seward and I called on Mears, Mackenzie and Steinkoff, the agent of the London firm of Hapgood. They had received a wire from London and asked, in answer to Lord Godalming's telegraph request, to show us them any civility in their power. They were more than kind and courteous, and took us at once on board the Tsarina Catherine, which lay at anchor out of the river harbour. There we saw the captain, Donaldson by name, who told us of his voyage. He said that in all his life he had never had such favourable a run. "Man," he said, "but it made us afeard, for we expected that we should have to pay with it with some rare piece of luck, so as to keep up the average. It's no canny to run frae London to the Black Sea with a wind ahin you, as though the Dale himself were blowing for you." Oh, I think he's meant to be Geordie. Sorry. I think he's meant to be Geordie. I'm not going to try and do a Geordie, but I think that's what they were going for. What Stoker was going for. As though the devil himself were blowing on your sail for his purpose. In a lifetime we could spare no thing. Gin were nigh a ship or a port or a headland. Fog fell on us and travelled with us. Till when, after it had lifted, we looked out, and the Dale thing we could see. We ran by Gibraltar without being able to signal, and till we came to the Dardanelles we had to wait to get our permit to pass. We were never within hail of aught. At first I inclined to slack off sail and beat about it till the fog was lifted, but whiles I thought that if the Dale was minded, we got into Black Sea quick. He was like to do it whether we would or no. If we had a quick voyage, it would be no to our miscredit with the owners, or to hurt our traffic. The old man who had served his ain purpose would be decently grateful to us for no hindering him. This was a mixture of simplicity and cunning, superstition and commercial reasoning, aroused Van Helsing, who said, "Mine friend, that devil is more clever than he is thought by some, and he know when he has met his match." The skipper was not displeased with the compliment, and he went on. When we got past the Bosphorus, the men began to grumble. Some of them, the Romanians, came and asked me to heave overboard a big box, which had been put on board by a queer-looking old man just before we'd started from London. I'd seen them spear the fellow, and put on with their 12 fingers when they saw him, to guard against the evil eye. Man, but the superstition of foreigners is perfectly ridiculous. I sent them about their business pretty quick. But as just after a fog closed in on us, I felt a wee bit, as I did announce something, though I wouldn't say it was again the big box. Well, on we went, and as the fog didn't let up for 5 days, I just let the wind carry us. For if the devil wanted us to get somewhere, well, he would fetch it up all right. And if he didn't, well, we'd keep a sharp lookout anyhow. Sure enough, we had a fair way in deep water all the time, and 2 days ago, when the morning sun came through the fog, we found ourselves just in a river opposite Galatz. The Romanians were wild and wanted to be right or wrong to take the box and flick into the river. I could argue with them about the... Sorry, Stoker's written this very phonetically. I'm having to interpret it as I go. Because I'm not going to try and do the Geordie. I do argue with him about argue with him, boot it with a handspike. And when the last of them rose off the deck with his head in his hand, I'd convinced him that, evil eye or no evil eye, the property and trust of my owners were better in my mind and in my hands than the River Danube. They had, mind you, taken the box on the deck ready to fling in, and as much as it was marked Galatz via Varna, I thought I'd let it lie till we discharged in the port and get rid of it altogether. We didn't do much clearing that day, and had to remain the night at anchor, but in the morning, bright and early, an hour before the sun up, a man came aboard with an order, written to him from England, to receive a box marked for one Count Dracula. Sure enough, the matter was ready to his hand. He had papers all right, and glad I was to be rid of the damn thing, for I was beginning myself to feel uneasy. If the devil did have any luggage aboard that ship, I'm thinking it was none other than that same. What was the name of the man who took it? Asked Dr. Van Helsing. I'll be telling you quick, he answered, stepped down to his cabin, produced a receipt signed Emmanuel Hildesheim. Bergenstrasse 16 is the address. We found out that this was all the captain knew, so with thanks we came away. We found Start the sentence again. We found Hildesheim in his office, a Hebrew of rather the Adelphi theatre type, with a nose like a sheep and affairs. His arguments were pointed with specie, we doing the punctuation, and little bargaining. He told us what we knew. This turned out to be simple but important. He had received a letter from Mr. Deville of London, telling him to receive, if possible before sunrise so as to avoid customs, a box which would arrive in Galatz in the Tsarina Catherine. This he was to give in charge to a certain Petrov Skinsky, who dealt with the Slovaks who traded down the river to the port. He had been paid for his work by an English banknote, which had been duly cashed for gold at the Danube International Bank. When Skinsky had come to him, he had taken him to the ship and handed over the box, so as to save porterage. That was all he knew. We then sought for Skinsky, but were unable to find him. One of his neighbours, who did not seem to bear him any affection, said he had gone away 2 days before. No one knew where. This was corroborated by his landlord, who had received by messenger the key of the house together with rent due, in English money. This had been between 10 and 11 o'clock last night. We were at a standstill yet again. Whilst we were talking, one came running, breathlessly, gasped out that the body of Skinsky had been found inside the wall of a churchyard of St. Peter. The throat had been torn open, as if by some wild animal. Those we had been speaking with ran off to see the horror, the women crying out, "This is the work of a Slovak." We hurried away, lest we should have been in some way drawn into the affair, and so detained. As we came home, we could arrive at no definite conclusion. We were all convinced that the box was on its way by water to somewhere, but where that might be, we had yet to discover. With heavy hearts, we came home to the hotel and Mina. When we met together, the first thing was to consult as to taking Mina again into our confidence. Things are getting desperate, and it is at least a chance, though a hazardous one. As a preliminary step, I was released from my promise to her. Mina Harker's journal. 30th of October, evening. They were so tired and worn out and dispirited, there was nothing to be done until they had rest, so I asked them all to lie down for half an hour. Whilst I shared into everything up to the moment, I feel so grateful to the man who invented the traveller's typewriter, and to Mr. Morris for getting this one for me. I should have felt quite astray doing the work if I had to write with a pen. It is all done, poor dear Jonathan. What he must have suffered. What must he be suffering now? He lies on the sofa, hardly seeming to breathe. His whole body appears in collapse. His brows are knit. His face is drawn with pain. Poor fellow. Maybe he is thinking, and I can see his face all wrinkled up with the concentration of his thoughts. Oh, if only it could help at all. I shall do what I can. I've asked Dr. Van Helsing, and he's got me all the papers that I've not yet seen. Whilst they are resting, I shall go over all carefully, and perhaps I may arrive at some conclusion. I shall try to follow the professor's example, and think without prejudice on the facts before me. I do believe that under God's providence I have made a discovery. I shall get the maps and look over them. I am more than ever sure that I am right. My new conclusion is ready, so I shall get our party together and read it. They can judge it. It is well to be accurate, and every minute is precious. Mina Harker's memorandum entered into her journal. Ground of inquiry. Count Dracula's problem is to get back to his own place. A. He must be brought back by someone. This is evident, for had he the power to move himself as he wished he could go either as man or wolf or bat, or in some other way, he evidently fears discovery or interference in the state of helplessness in which he must be, confined as he is between dawn and sunset in his box. B. How is he to be taken? Here, a process of exclusions may help us. By road, rail, or water. By road, there are endless difficulties, especially leaving the city. X. There are people. When people are curious, people investigate. A hint, surmise, a doubt as to what might be in the box could destroy him. Y. There are, or maybe, customs officers to pass. Z. His pursuers might follow. This is his highest fear, and in order to prevent his being betrayed, he is repelled, so far he can, even his victim, me. 2. By rail. There is no one in charge of the box. It would have to take its chance of being delayed. Delay would be fatal, with enemies on the track. True, he might escape at night, but what would he be if left in a strange place with no refuge to which he could fly? This is not what he intends. He does not mean to risk it. 3. By water. Here is the safest way, and in one respect, but with most danger in another. On the water he is powerless except at night. Even then, he can only summon fog and storm and snow and his wolves. But if he were wrecked, the living water would engulf him, helpless. He would be lost. He could have the vessel drive to land, but if it were in friendly land, wherein he was not free to move, his position would be desperate. We know from the record that he was on the water, so what we have to do is to ascertain what water. The first thing is to realize exactly what he has done as yet. We may then get a light on what his later task is to be. Firstly, we must differentiate between what he did in London as part of his general plan of action when he was pressed for moments and had to arrange as best he could. Secondly, we must see as well as we can surmise it from the facts of which we know what he has done here. As to the first, he evidently intended to arrive at Galad's and send invoice to Varna to deceive us, lest we should ascertain his means of exit from England. His immediate and sole purpose was then to escape. The proof of this is the letter of instructions sent to Emanuel Hildesheim to clear and take away the box before sunrise. There was also the instruction to Petrov Skinsky. These we must only guess at, but there must have been some letter or message since Skinsky came to Hildesheim. That, so far, his plans were successful, we know. The Tsarina Catherine made a phenomenally quick journey, so much that the captain's suspicions were aroused. But his superstition united his canniness. But his superstition, united with his canniness, played the Count's game for him, and he ran with his favouring wind through fogs and all, till he brought up blindfold at Galad's. But the Count's arrangement were well made, has been proved. Hildesheim cleared the box, took it off, and gave it to Skinsky. Skinsky took it, and here we lose the trail. We only know that the box is somewhere on the water, moving along. The customs of the octroi, if there be any, have been avoided. And now we arrive at what the Count must have done after his arrival on land at Galad's. The box was given to Skinsky before sunrise. At sunrise the Count could appear in his own form. Here we ask why Skinsky was chosen at all to aid in the work. In my husband's diary, Skinsky is mentioned as dealing with the Slovaks who trained down the river to the port, and the man's remark that the murder was the work of a Slovak showed the general feeling against this class. The Count wanted isolation. My surmise is this, that in London the Count decided to get back to his castle by water as the most safe and secret way. He was brought from the castle by a Skirny, and probably they delivered their cargo to Slovaks, who took the boxes to Varna, for there they were shipped to London. Thus, the Count had knowledge of the persons who could arrange this service. When the box was on land, before sunrise or after sunset, he came out from his box, met Skinsky, and instructed him on what to do, as arranging the carriage of the box up by some river. When this was done, he knew that all was in the train. He blotted out his traces, as he thought, by murdering this agent. I have examined the map and find that the river most suitable for the Slovaks to have ascended is either the Pruth or the Sarath. I read in the typescript that in my trance I heard cows low and water swirling level with my ears, and the creaking of wood. The Count, in his box then, was on a river in an open boat, propelled probably by oars or poles, for the banks are near, and it is working against stream. There would be no such sound of floating downstream. Of course, it may not be either the Sarath or the Pruth, but we may possibly investigate further. Of these two, the Pruth is more easily navigated, but the Sarath is, at Fundo, joined by the Bistritsa, which runs up and around Borgo Pass. The loop it makes is manifestly as close to Dracula's castle as can be reached by water. Mina Harker's journal continued. When I had done reading, Jonathan took me in his arms and kissed me. The others kept shaking me by the hands, and Dr. Van Helsing said, "Our dear Madam Mina is once more our teacher. Her eyes have been where we were blinded. Now we are on track once again, and this time we may succeed. Our enemy is at his most helpless, and if we can come on him by day, on the water, our task will be over. He has a start, but he is powerless to hasten, as he may not leave his box, lest those who carry him may suspect. For them to suspect would be to prompt them to throw him in the stream, where he perish. This he knows, and he will not. Now, men, to our council of war. Here and now, we must plan what each and all shall do. I shall get a steam launch and follow him, said Lord Godalming, and I horses to follow on the bank, lest by chance he land, said Mr. Morris. Good, said the Professor. Both good, but neither must go alone. There must be force to overcome force if need be. Slovak is strong and rough, and he carries rude arms. All the men smiled, for amongst them they carried a small arsenal. Said Mr. Morris, I have brought some Winchesters. They are pretty handy in a crowd, and there may be wolves. The Count, if you remember, took some other precautions. He made some requisitions on others that Mrs. Harker could not quite hear or understand. We must be ready at all points. Dr. Seward said, I think I'd better go with Quincy. We have become accustomed to hunt together, and we too, well armed, will be a match for whatever may come along. You must not be alone, Art. It may be necessary to fight the Slovaks, and a chance thrust, for I don't suppose these fellows carry guns would undo all our plans. There must be no chances this time. We shall not rest until the Count's head and body have been separated, and we are sure that he cannot reincarnate. Okay. We must not rest until the Count's head and body have been separated, and we are sure that he cannot reincarnate. He looked at Jonathan as he spoke, and Jonathan looked at me. I could see that the poor dear was torn in his mind. Of course, he wanted to be with me, but then the boat service would, most likely, be the one which would destroy the vampire. He was silent a while, and during his silence Dr. Van Helsing spoke. Friend Jonathan, this is to you for twice reasons. First, because you are young and brave and can fight, and all energies may be needed at the last. And again, that it is your right to destroy him, that which has wrought so much woe to you and yours. Be not afraid for Madam Mina. She will be my care, if I may. I am old. My legs are not so quick to run as once, and I am not used to ride so long, or to pursue as need be, or to fight with lethal weapons. But I can be of other service. I can fight in other ways, and I can die if need be, as well as younger men. Now let me say, what I would is this. While you, Lord Godalming, and friend Jonathan go in your so swift little steamboat up the river, and whilst John and Quincy guard the bank, where perchance he might be landed, I will take Madam Mina right into the heart of the enemy's country, whilst the old fox is tied in his box, floating on the running stream, whence he cannot escape to land, where he dares not raise the lid of his coffin box, lest this Slovak carrier should fear and leave him to perish. We shall go in the track where Jonathan went, from Bistritz, over the Borgo, and find our way to the castle of Dracula. Here, Madam Mina's hypnotic power will surely help, and we shall find our way, all dark and unknown otherwise. After the first sunrise, when we are near that fateful place, there is much to be done, and other places to be made to sanctify, so that that nest of vipers is to be obliterated. Here Jonathan interrupted him hotly. Do you mean to say, Professor Van Helsing, you would bring Mina in a sad case and tainted as she is with that devil's illness, right into the jaws of his death trap. Not for the world, not for heaven or hell. He became almost speechless for a minute and went on. Do you know what that place is? Have you seen that awful den of hellish infamy? The very moonlight alive with grisly shapes, every speck of dust that whirls in the wind, the devouring monster in embryo. Have you felt the vampire's lips upon your throat? Here he turned to me, and his eyes lit on my forehead as he threw his arms with a cry. Oh my God, what have we done to have this terror upon us? He sank down on the sofa in a collapse of misery. The professor's voice, as he spoke in clear, sweet tones, which seemed to vibrate in the air, calmed us all. Oh, my friend, it is because I would save Madame Mina from that awful place that I would go. God forbid I would take her to that place. There is work, wild work, to be done there, that our eyes may not see. We men here, all save Jonathan, have seen with their own eyes what is to be done before that place can be purified. Remember, we are in terrible straits. If the Count escape us this time, and he is strong and subtle and cunning, he may choose to sleep him for a century. And then, in our time, our dear one, he took my hand, would come to him and keep him company. That would be as those others that you, Jonathan, saw. You have told us of their gloating lips. You have heard their ribald laugh as they clutched the moving bag the Count threw to them. You shudder, and well may it be. Forgive me that I make you so much pain, but it is necessary. My friend, it is not a dire need for which I am giving, possibly my life. If it were, and anyone went into that place to stay, it is I who would have to go keep them company. Do as you will, said Jonathan, with a sob that shook him all over. We are in the hands of God. Later. Oh, it did me good to see the way those brave men worked. How can women help loving men when they are so earnest and true and brave? And too, it made me think of the wonderful power of money. What can it not do when it is properly applied? And what might it do when basely used? I felt so thankful that Lord Godalming is rich, and that both he and Mr. Morris, who also has plenty of money, are willing to spend it so freely. For if they did not, our little expedition could not start, either so promptly or so well equipped, as it will within another hour. It is not 3 hours as it was arranged what part each of us was to do. And now Lord Godalming and Jonathan have a lovely steam launch, with the steam up, ready to start at a moment's notice. Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris have half a dozen good horses, well appointed. We have all the maps and appliances of various kinds that can be had. Professor Van Helsing and I are to leave by the 11:40 train tonight for Veresti. We will get a carriage to drive to the Borgo Pass. We are bringing a good deal of ready money, as we are to buy a carriage and horses. We shall drive ourselves, for we have no one whom we can trust in the matter. The professor knows something of a great many languages, so we shall get on all right. We have all good arms, even for me a large bar revolver. Jonathan would not be happy unless I was armed like the rest. Alas, I cannot carry one arm that the rest do. The scar on my forehead I cannot carry one arm that the rest do. The scar on my forehead forbids that. Dear Dr. Van Helsing comforts me by telling me that I am fully armed, as there may be wolves. The weather is getting colder every hour, and there are snow flurries which come and go. Later. It took all my courage to say goodbye to my darling. We may never meet again. Courage, Mina. The professor is looking at you keenly. His look is a warning. There must be no tears now, unless it may be that God will let them fall in gladness. Jonathan Harker's Journal. October 30th, night. I am writing this in the light from the furnace door of the steam launch. Lord Godalming is firing up. He is an experienced hand at the work, and he has, for years, a launch of his own on the Thames, another on the Norfolk Broads. Regarding our plans, we finally decided that Mina's guess was correct, and that if any waterway was chosen for the Count's escape back to his castle, the Seraph and then the Bistritzer disjunction would be the one. We took it that somewhere around the 47th degree north latitude would be the place chosen for the crossing, the country between the river and the Carpathians. We have no fear in running at good speed up the river at night. There's plenty of water, and the banks are wide enough apart to make steaming, even in the dark, easy enough. Lord Godalming tells me to sleep for a while, as it is enough for the present for one to be on watch. But I cannot sleep. How can I, with the terrible danger hanging over my darling, and her going out into that awful place? My only comfort is that we are in the hands of God. Only for the faith, it would be easier to die than live, and so be to quit all of the trouble. Mr. Morris and Dr. Seward were off on their long ride before we started. They had to keep up on the right bank, far enough to get on higher lands, where they can see a good stretch of the river and avoid the following of its curves. They have, for the first stages, 2 men to ride and lead their spare horses, 4 in all, so as not to excite curiosity. When they dismiss the men, which will be shortly, they shall themselves look after the horses. It may be necessary for us to join forces, if so they can mount our whole party. One of the saddles has a movable horn, and can be easily adapted for Mina, if needed. It is a wild adventure we were on. Here, as we are rushing along through the darkness, with the cold from the river seeming to rise up between and strike us, with all the mysterious voices of the night around us. It all comes home. We seem to be drifting into unknown places, and in unknown ways, into a whole world of dark and dreadful things. Godalming is shutting the furnace door. October 31st. Still hurrying along. The day has come, and Godalming is sleeping. I am on watch. The morning is bitterly cold. The furnace heat is grateful, though we have heavy fur coats. And yet we have passed only a few open boats, but none of them had on board any box or package of anything like the size of the one we seek. The men were scared every time we turned our electric lamp on them. They fell to their knees and prayed. 1st of November, evening. No news all day. We have found nothing of the kind we seek. We have now passed under the Bistritzer, and if we are wrong in our surmise, our chance is gone. We have overhauled every boat, big and little. Early this morning, one crew took us for a government boat and treated us accordingly. We saw in this a way of smoothing matters, so at Fundu, where the Bistritzer runs to the Seraph, We got a Romanian flag, which we now fly conspicuously. With every boat with which we have overhauled since, this trick has succeeded. We've had every deference shown to us, and not once any objection to whatever we chose to ask or do. Some of the Slovaks tell us a large boat had passed them, going at more than usual speed, as she had double crew on board. This was before they came to Fundu, so they could not tell us whether the boat turned to the Bistritza or continued up on the Surat. At Fundu, we could not hear of such a boat, so she must have passed there in the night. I feel sleepy. The cold is beginning to tell on me, and nature must have rest sometime. Godalming insists that he shall keep the first watch. God bless him in all his goodness to poet Mina and me. 2nd of November, morning. It is broad daylight. That good fellow would not wake me. He says it would have been a sin to, for I slept peacefully and was forgetting my trouble. It seems brutally selfish for me to have slept so long and let him watch all night, but he was quite right. I am a new man here this morning, and as I sit and watch him sleeping, I can do all that is necessary, both as to minding the engine, steering, and keeping watch. I can feel that my strength and energy are coming back to me. I wonder where Mina is now and Van Helsing. They should have got to Veresti about noon on Wednesday. It would take them some time to get the carriage and horses. So, if they had started and travelled hard, they would be about Tau at the Borgo Pass. God guide and help them. I am afraid to think what may happen. If we could only go faster, but we cannot. The engines are throbbing and doing their utmost. I wonder how Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris are getting on. There seem to be endless streams running down the mountains to this river, but as none of them are very large, at present, at all events, though they are terrible doubtless in winter, and when the snow melts, the horsemen may not have had such an obstruction. I hope that before we get to Strasbourg, we may see them, for if by that time we have not overtaken the Count, we will have to take counsel as to what to do next. Dr. Seward's Diary, 2nd of November. 3 days on the road, no news, and no time to write it if there had been, for every moment is precious. We have had only the rest needful for the horses, but we are both bearing it wonderfully. Those adventurous days of ours are turning up useful. We must push on. We shall never feel happy till we get the launch in sight again. 3rd of November. We heard at Fundu that the launch had gone up the Bistritza. I wish it wasn't so cold. There are signs of snow, and if it falls heavy, it will stop us. In such case, we must get a sledge and go on, Russian fashion. 4th of November. Today we heard of the launch having been detained by an accident when trying to force a way up the rapids. The Slovak boats get up all right, by the aid of a rope with steering and knowledge. Some went up only a few hours before. Godalming is an amateur fitter himself, and evidently it was he who put the launch in trim again. Finally, they got up all the rapids all right, with local help, and are off the chase afresh. I fear the boat is not any better for the accident. The peasantry tell us that after she got upon smooth water again, she kept stopping every now and then as long as she was in sight. We must push on harder than ever. Our help may be needed. Mina Harker's Journal, 31st of October. Arrived at Veresti at noon. The professor tells me that this morning at dawn, he could hardly hypnotize me at all, and that all I could say was, dark and quiet. He's off now buying a carriage and horses. He says that he will later on try to buy additional horses, so we may be able to change them on the way. We have something more than 70 miles before us. The country is lovely, most interesting if only we were under different conditions. How delightful it would be to see it all. If Jonathan and I were driving through it alone, what a pleasure it would be to stop and see people, to learn something of their life and fill our minds with memories of the colour and picturesque of the whole wild, beautiful country and these people. But alas. Later. Dr. Van Helsing has returned. He's got the carriage and horses. We are to have some dinner and start in an hour. The landlady is putting us up a huge basket of provisions. It seems enough for a company of soldiers. The professor encourages her and whispers to me that it may be a week before we can get food again. He has been shopping too and has sent home such a wonderful lot of fur coats and wraps and all sorts of warm things. There will not be any chance of us being cold. We shall soon be off. I'm afraid to think what may happen to us. We are truly in the hands of God. He alone knows what may be, and I pray for him, with all the strength of my sad and humble soul, that he will watch over my beloved husband. And whatever may happen, Jonathan may know that I loved him and honoured him more than I can say, but that my latest and truest thought will always be for him. And thus concludes chapter 26. Okay. So I'm going to go on to chapter 27 pretty quickly, but as with all of these other chapters, I'll just very quickly explain. The purpose of all my streams doing spooky things this month has been in support of the charity known as Mermaids. Mermaids are an amazing, fantastic charity that support trans youth, non-binary youth, and gender diverse youth and their families, and they advocate for trans people in society, which, as I'm sure if you know trans people or the trans community or just even watch the news, you must be aware is a cause of great significance, because, at least in the UK and in some other societies, trans people have become almost like a political football in a terrible kind of culture war game that they didn't ask for, and they just want to be able to live their lives. And it's a terrible thing that they've been kind of othered and vilified and demonized by the media for no good reason. And I can just imagine that for an adolescent growing up and thinking, maybe I'm trans, maybe I'm non-binary, and wanting to kind of explore those feelings. I mean, anyone who's been through adolescence knows that adolescence is hard, right? It's difficult, and it must be very scary for those teens. I think those adolescents that are in that situation. Lots of conflicting ideas and conflicting emotions, especially when they're worried that they feel like they might be something that society has such a weird kind of fixation on, and a kind of negative opinion, again, for no good reason. So, I felt that the spooky season of Halloween was a good month to do this, or the spooky season of October, leading up to Halloween today. It's a good time to do this. So, the link is in the chat if you're watching the video live. If you're not, it is in the description. I think it's down there somewhere. And if you click on that, it'll take you to Tiltify, and you can donate if you want and read more about the work of mermaids. If you're not in a position to donate, please consider sharing it with someone you know that does. And if you don't know anyone that might, then just by watching, you're helping the algorithm, you're helping this video reach more people, and hopefully that means that one of them will donate it. So whether you are donating, sharing, or just watching, in advance on behalf of mermaids, Thank you.